Hello everyone and welcome to the LSI F1.5 EU Championship. Welcome to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the finale of Season 12, Round 14. Let's get it in the night sky at Yas Marina. Verf currently topping the times, going for another quick lap coming into the final sector. Now we're already in the final sector. Through the hotel section they will go to complete what is going to be potentially an improvement lap over Jericho Willis, currently around about 2 tenths ahead with a 0.6 on the boards. The only two cars in the 22s were the championship rivals. That's been secured since as Jericho Willis won the title back in Belgium last race. That's a 0.576 there from the Hungarian in the Sauber. Jericho Willis in the pit lane at the moment. Manic racing for the first time, currently in qualifying, may not make it to the race, and still pretty good lap to set immediately. Welcome back to Rare Winter and Bread is Cool, and then we've got the two reserve drivers, Samaxon and Heischler. I will be right back, and then we'll be back to it. Alrighty, we're back. Sorry for the delay there. We're all good to go. Welcome Terence onto the grid. Unfortunately, we don't get to see Bonkers, but we do get to see Jericho Willis out on track, who is going to try and set a qualifying lap here to compete with his rival. Everybody else have to follow accordingly, of course, as they go through the first sector. What can Jericho get done? The final race of the season. Although both championships have been wrapped up, we can still have a great race here. A brilliant race circuit around Yas Marina with lots of straights to create some great overtaking opportunities. We had some awesome racing yesterday. We got Jericho having a cheeky look in the slipstream of the Red Bull up ahead, who is just trying to carry on throughout their lap. That's Roy Winter, who's on 2-lap-old soft tyres. Bread is Cool's Jericho's teammate. Jericho is just following behind for now. They might end up being stuck behind the Red Bull, as the Red Bull isn't going slowly, but does have older tyres compared to the champion here. So purple in that middle sector looking quick, but they could end up finding themselves in a bit of trouble as the space isn't available on their qualifying lap. Into the slow section they will go. As you can see, they're all over the place in the dirty air, and that is unfortunately their lap done. Rare Winter crashes out anyway, maybe part of the distraction. Well, after a little bit of a tricky quali lap, we'll go through a few statistics, shall we, and say congratulations. Congratulations to the new LSI F1.5 EU champion, Jericho Willis. From the beginning to the end, Jericho never gave up, put in the effort to achieve the results they did, and fully deserve everything they earned. Although they didn't see a pole position in Season 12, they've gained 7 race wins, 12 podiums, and 2 fastest laps. Truly showing that they are a defensive mastermind with brilliant racecraft. And that is 54% win rate, a 92% podium chance, and 84% of the maximum points being taken home for McLaren. And of course, with such mighty stats and the help of Brothers Cool, the team's championship is also theirs. McLaren have scored 230 points in a combined 22 races, being a massive 121 points ahead of second place Sauber. What's more, McLaren led the championship in round 1 and never let it slip away since. Absolutely incredible stuff there from Jericho Willis and McLaren. Also have to give a special mention to Terence and Haas, and also Verf and Sauber for their brilliant challenges as well. Really giving it a good fight in the title, with Terence getting that 100% podium rate for a long time, and Verf missing out on only one pole position so far. They've got one more pole position to try and gain to their record to make it, well, effectively what's going to be every single race except from one, as they missed out due to Frantic taking it away in Hungary, their home race out of all places, to lose that pole position streak. They've still continued it after losing it just for a moment. Terence comes around the final few corners to set their first lap of the session, their first time lap of the session, and there it is on the clock. It's going to be a P4 right now behind Manic, 3/10 away for the moment. And it's Jericho Willis, not Verf, sorry, not Jericho Willis, Verf, who is going out again already, as of course Jericho had to go straight back into the pit lane. 3 minutes on the clock. This is very likely to be Verf's final lap of the session, so they're going fairly early to get the lap done nice and safely. They're going to have the Haas that will move out the way for them as they go down the straight. Terence moves to the inside line. There is going to be a bit of a toe gained by Verf, so that'll be quite useful. Very distant though. It looks a lot closer as you travel down that straight from our view, so maybe we're going to see a few moments where we get a bit more excited than we should be, as it's going to be, well, should be the inside line for Verf, but the Haas is in the way, and then the Sauber eventually gets through, so not a massive amount of impeding, but did cost Verf a little bit of lap time there from not being able to keep a minimum track distance kind of line. And then through the triple right-hander into the hotel section, left all the way, keeping the lock on and the throttle very light as the car just completely comes away from you on negative camber. And then the final corner as you go down the hill and once again up it, trying to put the traction down as it once again comes away from you. And it is a tiny little improvement there for Verf, and they're going to be a little bit frustrated with that one there after the Haas on the racing line as they came through into turn 9. So Verf's got to really look at the clock and see what's going on. They do have time to go for a slowdown lap and then again go for another lap, but their tyres are going to be pretty done, and Jericho Willis is looking to try and compete and get their first pole position in the final race of the season. Red is cool. Also on a lap, they've got Rare Winter, who's just ahead of them at the moment, so they're going to hope that they move out the way of them. ERS and DRS is being used, but the Red Bull's still standing in front in the moment, and they move out the way eventually. And now moving to the left hand side to minimise that track distance. They've currently got the high tier driver of Samaxon up in front of them. Eichler, of course, high tier driver as well, has disqualified to start the back. Verf moves out the way to avoid impeding, and here is the final section. Although they've run out of ERS already, as Bread is cool, they're going to struggle here in the final section to actually make this work with that lack of battery, but they've managed to get through it nice and tidily. The final two corners are upon them, holding it nicely with the downforce. A bit of a lock up in the final corner and really slow on the rotation. That's going to cost them a lot. They do get ahead of Rare Winter eventually, as Rare Winter now will start their lap and try and give it a good shot. Jericho Willis currently on a lap as well, which we may like to go and have a look at as they cross the line. We'll go and check in with them at some point. Manic comes out again to set some more laps. Despite injury, they're seeming to do pretty well. That's qualifying done for now. Verf will not be able to go again. They go into the pit lane and they finish their session. So does Terence. So Rare Winter is going to come down the back straight. It looks like we've got some illegal actions going on here with DRS or slipstreaming in qualifying, so that's probably going to be investigated. But oh well. It's looking pretty good for Jericho Willis in the final section. They go purple once again in the middle sector. This time, they get to nice clean track ahead of them into the final sector. And they go through the final two corners. Can Jericho Willis go for pole position to celebrate their championship victory last race across the line in Abu Dhabi? And they do it! They do it! Absolutely incredible! Jericho Willis is on pole position for the first time this season and will beat Verth, the second time only that Verth has been beaten so far, and the first time that Jericho has managed to beat his rival in the first stage of every event. Absolutely awesome stuff right there. Really, really unfortunate for Verth in the final bit, but a brilliant lap. You cannot take it away from Jericho. Absolutely incredible. Verth, Manic and Terence in P4. Wow, what a qualifying. A lovely lap there from Jericho Willis. The margins were small, just under a tenth away. And Verth is going to be disappointed with that one, not being able to get the job done once again in quali, but they've been pretty strong in the race in the later part of the season, so maybe it could come their way. Jericho Willis takes pole, Verth in P2, and Manic in P3. The race director is on your screen, and we will once again go and look at the stats before we get into the race. Check this one out. Ready. Hold. Go! Who's going to get it into turn one? Jericho Willis on pole position for the first time this season. And he's managed to hold it nicely. It's side by side with the rookie and the championship challenger. Still has the inside line. Now it goes to the outside and they've lost it. Down to P3 from P2. Verve has not had a good start at all. And Jericho Willis is very, very strong. His teammate is coming up behind the Sauber now to try and get some momentum. It's Terence on the inside of Rare Winter. They want to try and have a go in the early stages, but they can't seem to do anything about it just yet. It is Verve who goes to the inside line, and Manic will allow that one to slide for now. They do look to the inside line, as Brothers Cool was also very ready to try and go for something. Actually, on the exit, they may have it. A big mistake there from both of the cars, though, has maybe cancelled it out, and they won't pressurise one another at all. It is Rare Winter who's got, well, they've got two cars directly behind them as Heischler goes to the outside line. Terence is trying to have a battle here as they get ahead of Heischler, but they can't really find the momentum to get to Rare Winter just yet. They will have to let that one play out for the time being. Now, we've got Manic incredibly close to the back of the Sauber as 8/10 is the gap to Jericho Willis, the champion of Europe, and they currently lead the way on lap 2. Fastest lap, as expected, to be the first one to lead it. There is Rare Winter making the move as Brothers Cool makes a mistake. 1.3 seconds away! Oh, and Rare Winter's into the wall on the exit of the first corner, losing it. No front wing to their name, and they're going to have to take that one back to the pit lane. Very lucky to stay in this race. Such a shame for that one to happen in the early stages. Really frustrating there. Very unfortunate for Rare Winter. It is Jericho Willis who's got pressure from behind, but it's Brothers Cool who's trying to keep the other cars behind. It's Terrence who will get ahead regardless, and Heich will follow on through. It's Sir Maxon who's up behind, trying to follow their F1 higher tier driver rival as well, but they're not going to have that easy of a ride, as it's going to be Heischler also going for the move on Terence, and there's Sir Maxon going for the double overtake, as Terence will brake very late into turn 9 to try and get an advantage. It's Brothers Cool who had a massive amount of momentum, but wasn't able to do anything about it. Going defensive there is Terence in the end, rightly so, as Brothers Cool had to back out of that one. Saw that there was a car to the inside and couldn't do anything about it. Now there is a bit of a split in the track, or in the grid, but currently 2 F1 tier drivers are splitting that, so they're definitely going to have some good pace. Can they compete with the might of a slipstream train around Abu Dhabi? Well, Verve now leads the way as Jericho Willis concedes the lead, but it's only lap 3 out of 29. We've got a long way to go in this Grand Prix. Rare Winter into the pit lane for a new front wing. Final race is underway and we're having some good racing already. DRS available for an overtake from Jericho. They're going to go to the outside line. There's going to be no question about it. Is Verve going to slow down? Well, they don't really have an option. It's Manic who's managed to find their way nice and close behind them, but there's a bit of contact as they came steaming into the battle. The two cars up in front went very, very slowly to try and sort it out between themselves, but they couldn't back off because it wouldn't have been safe because Manic was sat right behind them. So they had to try and decide what to do. Mid-corner, slowed each other up. Manic was all over it and trying to have an advantage, but it didn't work out. They're luckily all good to go and still within one another. But it's not easy, and Manic's got a little bit shaken up by that one. They've got to compose themselves and bring him back. They do take a bollard with them, but hopefully that is the last bollard that they will see. Brothers Cool gets past Heischler as Sir Maxon also overtakes Heischler as well. So a bit of a switch up between the cars behind. 3.1 seconds. They've still got to try and make some progress here on the top 3, who will now lead the way once again. And Verve is going to have to try and decide on what to do. Are they going to go for the overtake on Jericho, or are they going to wait behind? Are they going to go for it early, or are they going to go for it late? Well, it was a late switch up last time around. It eventually happened. I don't think Manic is really going to have so much patience compared to what happened last time. So now they might actually try and get involved in this move if Verf goes for it or not. Verf doesn't seem to want to go for it. Manic doesn't actually either. They are catching up a lot, saving battery both of these cars. Manic's incredibly close to the back of that Sauber and looking very, very feisty, ready to make a move at some point soon. But for now, they'll stay behind and they'll allow everything to happen. 3.1 seconds, the gap stays the same as we see Samaxon in P4, but it's actually a switch up as Verf did go into the lead of the Grand Prix right there. Once again, Rare Winter having a few problems in the first sector as they struggle with the exit of the first corner, but looking at the tyres, they're on those fresh, hard tyres and good to go, and waiting to see if anything will happen later on in the race to bring them back in it. The top three are on that medium tyre. Brothers Cool also starting close behind was also on that medium tyre. I believe Rare Winter would have been. Terrence's as well. The higher tier drivers both starting on the hards. And that's the tyre that everybody else will be looking to go on towards the end of the Grand Prix. So Maxon now gains a 10th in that final sector, but are they going to lose it all again as the top three break away with the DRS train? Well, Samaxon's got no DRS train around them. Unless Brothers Cause managed to do enough, I don't think they're going to be able to get it into the hairpin, and DRS will not be available for the other McLaren driver. The top three are going to pull each other along the straight. It's Jericho Willis to the inside line who will look to make the move on Verf, take the racing line. It's actually going to be side by side as they can't afford to concede the position to Manic. It's all a little bit feisty here in the final race of the season. Very interesting stuff now. They're not so spread out. It's not a 1v1 between the two championship contenders. It's Manic who is involved with nothing to lose, and they are right behind, keeping these guys very, very honest. It's not easy at all. It is not easy at all. It's Samaxon who's now 2.7 seconds away, gaining 3/10. Hydra was able to make that move on Bread as they were vulnerable without any DRS. It's Terrence who sits behind the McLaren driver and continues to race for this position. Currently for the EU drivers, it's Jericho Willis in P1, it's Verf in P2, Manic in P3, Brothers Corn P4, 5 for Terrence, and P6 for Rare Winter. As that is a yellow in the first sector. That's Manic unfortunately having an issue. A wrist injury does mean that they're now going to lose some ground. Really trying to make it work and doing a phenomenal job, but unfortunately they're going to lose a lot of momentum. DRS is now available for them and they'll sit behind Heischler. They don't need to race them too hard, but I think they're going to want to try and make some more progress from what they did before. But Heischler's pretty quick, so they're not exactly going to be slowed down. Although, that being said, they're incredibly close. Man, it's got to try and calm down and then get back into this race. Otherwise, they could be in trouble. The top two now lead each other. They're getting a bit of worries from the cars behind as they now try to put the pressure on and bring everyone with them. But with Brothers Cool and Manic now fighting, DRS could be lost to the higher tier drivers. Manic is ahead. Brothers Cool tries to go the long way round, but it's never going to work around the outside line there. Will they go for the inside? They will try and stick their nose in. The space is left. Absolutely phenomenal stuff on the exit. The switchback isn't available, but the Ferraris are all over the place on the exit. Brothers Cool now has the outside line and is going to swoop through to take the position. Phenomenal stuff, but it's looking like they wanted to go to the pit lane there for Manic, but they unfortunately didn't make it. I think they were trying to get out the way and maybe had enough of their wrist injury, which is a shame, a big shame, but a brilliant effort so far. They continue to race. Terrence now P7 right behind and looking to try and make some progress if they can. The top two are still on their own, but they have Samaxon who is closing in rapidly. Jericho Willis will allow their ERS to be burned to make that move in the slipstream train. It's now Terence and Manic who fight for position. Manic, the inside line is available. They break as late as they can. Oh, and they make the move, but there's contact on the exit. Oh, no, no, no. The space was trying to be squozed. Terence was trying to get some more. And it was a little bit difficult to see that one, but I think it may have just been racing instant. That is Red Winter, who retires from the race in the pit lane. No safety car will be deployed. A shame to see their season come to an end, but with a few podiums, they should be happy with what they've done, and I hope to see them back for the next season. That is a big, big loss of the front end there for Verf, who's struggling with this tyre now. They lose the position in the following corner already to Jericho Willis, and there is a lot of pressure on the Sauber. Not getting that pole position, not having the confidence in the outright pace, they've now got to try and compete with the driver that's had the best racecraft throughout the entire season. Apart from maybe that Brazil race where Verf absolutely shone and completely shocked everybody, Jericho Willis has managed to have the composure, some fortune, but also the defending of an absolute legend. DRS available for Verf to gain back what they just lost. So Maxwell not quite in DRS range, bringing Heischler with them. It's Brothers Cool who's in P5 pretty much on their own now, as Terence is, of course, following behind. It's in the pit lane for Manic. Maybe Manic got a bit of damage on the car. That's why they were trying to go to the pit lane earlier on. They're on the hard tyre pretty early on, looking for maybe an undercut, but 3 seconds, of course, for that pit lane cut. 3 seconds for Brothers Cool for track limits. Very easy to get track limits around this circuit, so expect a few more to be coming. Hopefully no more will come around, but it could very be possible. Lap 8 out of 29. We've still got a long way to go in this Grand Prix, but these cars should be definitely finding a rhythm at this point in the race. They know Simaxon is not a current tier driver, but they definitely would prefer it if they stayed out of the way and weren't an extra complication in their race. But you can't do anything about it. Simaxon is going to hunt them down. Heischler loses a big chunk of time there too. Simaxon still quite far ahead of the rest of the field, but they're doing what they can. We've got Terence who's currently in P5, and they are currently P3 of the EU drivers. Still fighting for that podium position. However, we'll see how it goes. Brothers Cool, currently P6, going into the pit lane, and Manic is going to try and make a little bit of a gain. But 3 seconds of time penalties. I'm not entirely sure that was a track limit on the final corner. Pretty easy to get done. Pretty early on to now have 6 seconds, but they can still get some good experience in this race and try and catch up to the cars behind. They come out about 3-4 seconds behind Brothers Cool. They are going to have some nice warm tyres, and they can definitely do something in this race. Just got to try and hope that something happens. Jericho Willis now leads the way. They continue, and they are going to be controlling where the pit stops will be made if they stay in this position. Of course, we're not expecting to make pit stops just yet, maybe in a couple of laps' time. But if a few cars do want to go a little bit earlier than usual, then we could see that happen. And so Maxon's actually lost time to the top two, who have, since having that mistake from Verf a couple of laps ago, found some good consistency and made use of the DRS train that they've got working. That's a 3 second there for Terence. Another time penalty. That's on the inside line, actually, of the pit lane. So I think that might be removed if they can record that and prove it. Whether they've cut the pit lane or not, that's a different story. They might be able to remove it. We'll have to double check the regulation after that one. It's Terence who will lose the position to Brothers Cool. It's Verf who will get ahead of Jericho Willis. On the pit lane exit, we're going to see Terence come through, and they are going to be fairly far behind Manic and Brothers Cool. These guys are very interestingly spread out with one another. Terence will have the tyre advantage on that hard tyre, but it seems to be that the outlaps have just been absolutely masterful. Unless these cars split up a little bit further than I thought they did before making those pit stops, well, that would maybe be an explanation, of course. But 6.6 seconds, they've got to try and catch up. The race is still very much on. And now Samakson thriving in this final sector, 1.3 seconds, catching massively, 7/10 over the last lap or so. But still, no DRS, and it's where these cars will be able to use their tool nicely to gain a little bit more time. But 0.2 of a second, will Samakson be able to dig deeper and find that extra lap time here? Using a bit of energy to try and find it. They know it's possible. And they've just managed to bleed into it. Will it register in-game on the timing sheets, however? That is the question. DRS, is it available for the Polish driver, the champion of the F1 tier in Season 14 for F1? They do get the activation sound. According to us, they've got it, but according to them, they do not. So that's a little bit of a complicated one. That is Jericho making that move to try and extend the DRS gap that they have, and they do so successfully. So no DRS will be available once again to Samakson. Oh, okay, no, never mind, it will. It was over 1 second, and then I think on the exit, Samakson must have had it, and now they do finally get their rear wing open. They may have already had it open before, and it's just not visual for us. I don't know which way the bug is. Barely touching the line. Is that on the inside of the pit lane, or is that in a different track limit? That's a question to Mars in chat there. Lap 11 out of 29, no pit stops just yet, but they're definitely going to be thinking about it. As you can see, Verf goes to it. And they do go to the inside line, but they don't get a warning at all. Or maybe they did get a warning. And they may try and contest it at a later point. Into the pit lane they must go. And it'll be onto the hard tyre as expected. Getting the stop done, getting the undercut here on Jericho Willis. Jericho so far seems to have the advantage over the Hungarian. It's not by much, but it's still by a little bit, so they're trying to go for a bit of a different strategy change. Samakson catches up and is going to make a bit of a slipstream train work with Jericho. So this is a perfect time for Jericho as their rival makes a pit stop, and now all of a sudden they're going to get involved in a DRS train and only gain time here in this scenario. So they'll immediately gain on this back straight, whilst Verf, they're not really going to lose anything, but they're just not going to be able to gain what Jericho currently has. Yeah, definitely have to be reviewed at a later point. Sorry for not clarifying it before the race. Rare Winter says traction for them just left, and they just couldn't seem to find it in the race. That is Jericho Willis into the pit lane. Following on, and we will watch on board with Verf, who comes through the final few corners to start the next lap, and then we'll race to the pit lane exit, and we'll get to see really how it is for an undercut. Is it that advantageous, or did something happen earlier on with the cars behind? Well, it looks a lot closer here. It looked a lot closer yesterday. It's actually maybe a little bit further than I thought, and that is actually a huge gap that Verf has managed to bring on Jericho Willis by catching them off guard and diving into the pit lane. They weren't ahead, they were behind, and they could do that. They could take advantage of not allowing the car behind to react because they didn't have their current tier driver behind them. And that's a 2.6 second gap advantage that they've got. Absolutely huge margins. Jericho Willis is now going to try and find what they've done so far this season and really dig deep to get this one done. They've done it before. They can do it again. Will time penalties be involved in this one? Well, there's slightly colder tyres there for Jericho. They're going to lose a little bit of lap time in the next few corners, but they can warm those tyres up nicely. They're not too far apart from one another. They'll be good to go. Samakson and Heischler 5.4 seconds away, staying out for the long game as they started on this hard tyre. Interesting to see a time penalty there. It's a fastest lap though for Verf as they continue to break away from Jericho Willis. It's Manic who has made some good progress on Brothers Call up ahead. Still pushing the limits. The first corner seems to be catching a lot of cars off guard today. Through the S's in the first sector, down the hill they go. Carrying lots of speed into the hairpin. Braking as hard as they can. Very easy to lose the front end, as it's a little bit bumpy. You can slide around a lot, trying to reach the apex as best as you can. DRS usually available if you're in the 1 second margin of the car ahead. And then heavy braking into the chicane. Very heavy braking there for Manic as they lock the rears. Loose all over the rear end as well. Trying to throw it around, trying to gain that extra time that they need to get within that DRS range. They're pushing nicely. You can see that they're utilising their battery as well throughout the lap, not leaving anything on the table. Encountering a big bit of understeer in turn 9. That's where Brothers Call will be able to gain a little bit more and might be safe from DRS as they start lap 16 and quite potentially complete the entirety of it. It might be lap 17 that Manic's going to have to wait for. That's damage on the end plate of the Ferrari as they make big contact with the wall, and they're going to have a really frustrating time with that one. Still in this race, very much so. Higher tier drivers, of course, up in front. It is Verf in P1, Jericho P2. It's Brothers Call in P3, 4th for Manic, and 5th for Terence. At the moment, Terence still 6 seconds behind Manic. Still making progress overall on the battle ahead. But Manic has showed some good pace somewhat recently. Still got a little bit more work to try and keep that podium streak up. 3.6 seconds, however, between Jericho Willis and Verf. Once again, another strategy call of the ages from Verf, managing to go a lap earlier and just having huge momentum. They found the pace throughout the lap, throughout the race, not quite getting it dialed in for quali, and I would say not quite getting it dialed in for the first couple of laps or so. But they've eventually got a feel for the circuit in the first stint, and now they reach the second stint, they get a fresh start, and the fresh start is seeming to do them quite nicely at the moment. 7 seconds away from Heisler. Now those medium tyres are going to, hopefully, for the higher tier driver's sake, going to be very, very quick. That's Manic into the pit lane once again. There for a front wing change. A shame to see, as that battle was really heating up, looking like it was going to be a good one. But that final sector, so easy to get wrong. And around this circuit, with the camber, with the bumps, you can lose the front end incredibly easy if you have a bit of a snap on the rear as well to assist that. And it doesn't take much to lose your front wing, or at least a part of it. That's what we've seen a few times so far in this race already. Roe Winter being a victim of that in the early stages since retiring from the race. We're over the halfway point of this Grand Prix now. So Maxon, will they make the pit stop? They do go over track limits. Maybe got away with it if they had a tyre on it. They do go into the pit lane now. And they will take it to the end on a medium tyre. Heish is going to follow along as well. Verf and Jericho Willis will take the lead of the Grand Prix. And by some margin as well. This undercut seems to be very, very powerful. 3.7 seconds. Well, when we were going down the straight, it looked like the gaps between the cars weren't that big, despite them being what they were, down this straight that I'm mentioning here. But as you go through the first few corners, it seemed to be a lot bigger than it feels. 3.7 seconds, that's the gap. Absolutely massive at the moment. I say massive, it's not that big. 4 is a decent margin at the moment, but still possible to get a penalty and ending up losing out. It's Heish who comes out right behind Brothers Call, makes the move once again on the medium tyre. Going to be looking to push like a madman here and try and make some progress on Jericho Willis. Of course, a time penalty goes for Sir Maxon. They're going to have now 6 seconds. The Heisler's currently in a position to possibly take them. Of course, though, we do have that pit lane entry that is going to be questioned, and there's going to be a few things asked about that one. So I think we may see that be only a 3-second there for Sir Maxon. But if it is 6 for now, Heisler is going to be very, very quick. And they are currently sat within that time penalty range and looking at that P3 spot as it stands on track. But they've still got to gain effectively 8 seconds to be able to catch up to Jericho Willis, then pass, then try and have a go at Verth. 3.4 seconds away from the McLaren. So a lot to do in less than half the race now. They can definitely give it a good shot. And they've got some good momentum. Brothers Call currently sat in P5, 6 seconds ahead. Manic goes for the fastest lap on that medium tyre. As they're doing what they can in this race. Currently sat in a P5 spot for the EU drivers. 7th for the overall race. There is your race leader, 3.6 seconds away. The gap's kind of stabilised somewhat recently, as Jericho has managed to find a good rhythm maybe, or Verth's just started to slow up and make sure that they don't get themselves any penalties at all. So Maxon gaining massively with the fastest lap of the race as well. Eichler's going to cross the line as well to try and compete with that one. We'll have a look at the fastest laps on track at the moment. A 0.5 there for Sir Maxon, a 0.7 for Heisler, a 0.2. So a 5.2 there for Manic. Big differences, but different tiers. Sir Maxon, quickest car on track as of now. And they are looking to try and catch up to the quickest driver in the championship, Jericho Willis. The 2 champions of LSI in the current seasons are closing up to one another to meet each other on track. The pursuit is on, the chase is on. Sir Maxon almost has the DRS button on, but this time they'll have to let it go. On the exit, will they be able to use any battery? They've not really got much at all. They're pushing to try and find it on the McLaren, but reaches a stalemate before they go into the chicane. On the exit of the chicane, will they find the extra time they need to get that DRS open? They will do so. Very, very well done there for Sir Maxon. Brilliant stuff. They knew where the DRS zone was yesterday. That helped them take victory in the race, and they know where it is today to try and get themselves DRS at the earliest possible opportunity. And all of a sudden, they are now just 3/10 away from Jericho. Mistake there for the McLaren allows Sir Maxon to go through. Jericho's not going to contest it on the opposite tyre. In a different tier, they will sit behind. Will they try to go for the move? Once again, I don't think so. Not on a medium tyre that you don't need to race for the championship with 6 seconds of time penalties. Jericho Willis can now work together with Samaxon to try and catch up to Verf here. It's part of the tools that you can use. It's part of the game. 3.9 seconds though. Verf did gain a massive amount there with that mistake there from Jericho Willis. ERS is going to be used by the American, and they're going to try and give it a big slipstream effect. And Samaxon is likely to try and take that move into turn 9, although with the advantage that Jericho has, I'm not sure if they will. DRS available. Jericho moves to the far outside line to try and give Samaxon the inside. They will switch. Nicely done. There's the racing line for Samaxon. And there is the position once again. And they've gained not really that much. They've pretty much reached an even point. Maybe half a tenth or so, if anything, on Verf. At least they didn't lose any time, I guess you could say. But now Samaxon has got to try and push in the corners where their tyres will be mighty. They can see the Sauber up in front. They can see what is possible. Also, what is possible for Terence, we don't know, but they've made some good progress on Brothers Call over the last couple of laps. 3 seconds for all cars except from Manic with 9 and 6 seconds for Samaxon. Of course, all these penalties are going to take a pinch of salt, as a few drivers may have extended the pit lane entry, which maybe isn't going to be classed because we really didn't look into that before. So I do apologise for not looking into that. We should know. But it is a bug that everyone will be treated equally of. And everything will be sorted. That's Terence having an issue in the first sector. Manic's going to catch up. We're going to have a look and see what happens here, as it is Terence who does have a full front wing loss. And a really, really disappointing way for this season to finish. But they can pit and they can finish this race. Manic looking to take that position away from them. Verf leads the way. Samaxon regain that position into turn 9 as a repeat. Deja vu. And now they're 2.8 seconds behind Verf. Lap 23 out of 29. Jericho using what they can on track to gain themselves some lap time. They tried to do this in Brazil with Pursoon, but that didn't quite go to plan. They now do it with the champion in the F1.24 game. Other than Niffer, of course. The first one to do it in the F1.24 game. Also with an injury, so Manic can definitely do a good job if they want it. No overtake there for Jericho Willis into the chicane, so sitting behind this time and allowing for Samaxon to stay ahead. 2.3 seconds away. That is a quick Sauber in a straight line. But it's a very quick racing ball in the corners. Those medium tyres aren't going to get any fresher. They are going to be quick even to the last couple of laps. Will they be quick enough to compete with the current tier drivers though? That is the question. So Maxon's not going to want to give anything up. They're going to want to try and take victory here because they're currently at risk to losing a position to Heischler with that 6 second. But once again, as I said, maybe a 3 second would be removed. So it could be that we see Maxon try and stay about 4 seconds ahead. Maybe just over 3. I do apologise for the commentator's curse, Omars. I do apologise indeed. 1.8 seconds. The gap continues to close. Jericho watches behind and is able to save their ERS by sitting behind the faster tyre runner in front and using that as an advantage to save on the straights. They catch up with the DRS. They don't need to overtake. And they just turn the battery off really, really slow now in the hotel section. A fairly light car than we do have, but the tyres are definitely pretty old, and that's what you can see, the understeer kicking in. 1 lap difference between Verf and Jericho Willis. Not going to be huge on tyre difference. It'll all be down to driving style for real tyre difference. This time, Samaxon hasn't gained that much. I say that. On entry to the hairpin, they gained a huge amount. ERS, DRS being used here by Jericho. And they're going to push quite nicely to try and gain some extra lap time down the straight. They will do so. And then Samaxon will look to regain that position possibly. Although that being said, Jericho Willis now is fairly far ahead, and I think they may have that position. They are turning the battery off. I don't think they should have done that. They've probably lost all of their pace from what they just gained a few moments ago. They have indeed. So, a big mistake there for Samaxon, and a time penalty right now for Jericho Willis as they went just over track limits. It's all unfolded on lap 25. And Verf has suddenly seen something that was looking so impossible become very possible. Is Jericho going to try and get a time penalty removed? I don't know, but it's Samaxon whose tyres have died and they're all over the place. They'll allow Jericho to go through. It looked like that was the case as we were coming into turn 9 on the last lap. Jericho still wanted the higher tier driver to go through, but the switching point has come a lot earlier than I expected on the medium tyre. And it's all changing. Heischler catches up as the mistakes occur in front of them. DRS and ERS is going to have to be used by Jericho at some point. I know they're trying to save it to race with Verf, but now they've got a time penalty, and now they've got a higher tier driver that isn't really in that good of a position to be able to gain any lap time. Although that being said, a phenomenal chicane from Samaxon has gained them a lot of time, but they've just got themselves an extra time penalty, so it's kind of just taken it all away anyway. The inside line is chosen by Jericho Willis, who now takes it into their own hands to try and catch up to the Sauber car. Maybe looking to show that they are going to try and get something removed, and they are going to get a move on to try and make this work. Now they have to try and realise that it's all up to them in these final stages. That's the fastest lap attempt looking for Manic, as Terence will gain that position. Is Terence also going to try and go for fastest lap? Well, right now they might be able to hold on. We'll see how it goes for them. Just within or outside of DRS range at the moment is Jericho Willis. I do wonder, is Verf slowing down? Is Verf allowing Jericho to catch up because of the time penalty situation? Do they realise that it's maybe not as it seems? Or is this legitimate? Well, it wasn't that much of a gain. They were really trying to push each other behind, and it's been fairly steady throughout. So I think it may be legitimate. DRS is available, and the McLaren now is once again in the hunt for the victory. If not on the timings, they're going to try and get the job done on track and then contest it after the race, potentially. We'll have to see on how that one goes. We're about to reach the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. DRS is available. Jericho is not going to be in a position to make an overtake. They're going to have to try and save some battery. As you can see, Verf is ready to do that as well, as they're going to wait for the final laps to get this job done. Not sure what I would do if I was Jericho. Would I want to try and get ahead and control the race pace and save my battery? Or am I confident in the position that I'm in as I sit behind Verf? I think I'd be confident in the position that I'm in the DRS train. They've got Sir Max on, who's behind, trying to gain everything as they push the car to the limit. They don't want to be at risk at losing the position to Heischler, but Heischler gets themselves a time penalty. They're now on a big time penalty. It's a 9-second for Sir Max on, still a 6-second advantage, so maybe, just maybe, Sir Max will be able to hold it if they get a time penalty removed, but right now I think it's all game over and Heischler should have the job done. Every car but the front runner right now has a time penalty. Verve can't do anything about it. DRS, ERS is being used. That's the position going to be gained by the American. The inside line will be theirs. They look to go to the racing line. They don't fully take it. They allow Verve to sit right behind and watch on. And now Verve is in prime position to make this overtake in the final lap. So Maxon is going to watch the battle happen ahead and not get involved at all. We approach the final lap of racing in Season 14 and Season 12 of LSI F1 and LSI F1.5. This is the EU Championship coming to a close. The championship titles have already been decided, but it's the final race that we're awaiting to see come to a close. Who will make it to the line first? Well, right now, time penalties are a little bit confusing, so we're just going to try and decide it on track, and look at that. It's Jericho Willis, though, who has made an early charge. 7/10 an advantage right now. Absolutely huge here for the McLaren, but DRS will still be available for the Sauber car. ERS is going to be blasted, and they have DRS to be maybe make it possible for a move into the chicane. They will go. I don't think it's going to be their choice of overtaking. Turning off the battery as Jericho Willis, using a lot of it already, is the Sauber on the exit. A drag race into turn 9. The fast hairpin. Will it be enough here for Verve, or is Jericho Willis going to get there on track? The outside line is surely going to have to be their choice. They do go to the long way round. It's the inside. Is it a switchback? It's not, and it's a brilliant defensive throw there from Jericho Willis, pulling off the early breakaway, and I think they may have just got it done. Verve moves to the left to try and have a look, but no, it's not going to happen. And Jericho Willis is going to take it on track ahead. It's Sir Maxon into the wall, but we don't need to worry about that one. The champion is going to cross the line first for the final time in Season 12. It's Verve who will take it on time penalties for now and take victory once again in LSI. They break the curse. They take 2 in a row. Absolutely incredible stuff. It's Heischler in P3. It's Sir Maxon in P4. It's Brothers Cool who's going to be in P5. A fastest lap attempt there for Manic, and then they retire at the end. It's Terence who will finish in P6 and off the podium for the higher tier drivers. Brothers Cool is going to look to celebrate their team's championship with a podium in the final race. Brilliant stuff there for Brothers Cool. And Terence is going to be disappointed, but the season is done and they've given it so much dedication. They should be proud of what they've done, are proud of what they've achieved, and they've definitely made some good breakthroughs this season and gained a lot of knowledge. They cannot take that away from anything that they've done. It's Verve who's on top in the final race, but it's this man who is the champion. And here are the donuts there to celebrate the championship there for Terence. Unfortunately, we just missed them and saw the end of it, but they've enjoyed it. They've enjoyed it. GG, everyone. And GG, Jericho Willis. Lovely stuff indeed. Verve is on top for now. We avoid looking at the time penalties too much and see it as it is. Verve takes victory in Abu Dhabi to finish off the season. It's Jericho Willis in P2 and it's Heischler in P3. So Maxon with a P4 fastest lap after being demoted on time penalties. Then it's Brothers Call, Terence Manick, and then DNFing earlier on was Rare Winter. The session results will be saved. The race director is on the screen now. And then we'll go to the pit stop section as well, of course. And we'll actually go one more time through the race director just in case. And then finally, I want to have a look at who did get the fastest lap for the EU drivers. It's a 25.6, 25.3 for Verf. It's a 24.7 for Brothers Call, and it will go to Brothers Call. Brilliant lap there for Brothers Call in the final stages. Thank you very much. We'll be back for the post-race interviews. We'll see you in a bit. Hello everyone, welcome to the post-race interviews of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Welcome to the final post-race interview of the season of the F1.24 game. That was a pretty interesting race, Heischler. You got the podium in the end. Well done indeed. That circuit, it's not an easy one, especially when you don't have DRS in the early stages.
Well, it's not an easy track when the game gives you all tires that you used in quali. So I was struggling in massively during the first stint. I realized after lap 3 that were old tires, and before that I was already using them like new tires. So I was like, you always slide a little bit on any tire, but yeah, if you do that on already used tires, they will just be really awful for the rest of the stint. So the rear was not there, the front was in some corners there and some corners not there. So the first stint was just horrible. Simonson was practicing with no line, so when he broke a little bit earlier than I expected, so that didn't help my race as well. That's why I lost DRS. If I didn't lose it, I would have probably won. But it is what it is. The medium stint was fun. Well, it was way better to drive. I had way more control over the car until the last 2-3 laps. Then the mediums were too old as well. I would rather pit like on lap 17 to 19 to the mediums instead of lap 16. So that's why I struggled at the end of the race as well. But it doesn't really matter. I just had fun out there. I just kept my muscle memory going for the new game, just doing races here and there, and I'm looking forward to the new game.
Awesome. And a question that I asked a few drivers yesterday, what's your favourite circuit of this game?
That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I would still go with Jeddah, but that's just because it's my favorite track as well, and I just think how it flows is just so nice. I don't care about what people say about curbs. It just flows so nice, and I want to drive there nearly every weekend.
Awesome. Good choice. Thank you very much, Heisler. Really good effort today, and it's been a pleasure watching you in F1.24, and I look forward to it in 25. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we move on to Jericho Willis, the champion. Congratulations. We had a few stats on the screen earlier on. Now they are completely outdated. Obviously, you just said to me a few moments ago that you might try and get a warning removed, so maybe you'll get an extra victory to the championship. That would be over 50% of the races you would have taken victory at. That would be absolutely awesome. Can you take us through the race and how it was with the pit stops? Because that was a big undercut that Verve had.
Yeah, it was a big undercut. Yeah, staying out. I knew staying out an extra lap was very risky here because I know the drop off with the tires is pretty severe. And I just left it a lap too late and didn't quite know I was right on that drop off. And then I had some accident with me. I had to decide whether or not to try to push and stay ahead of him or let him by and pull me along. So I think just a little bit of the drop off in the tires probably dropped nearly a second, and then kind of messing around with the position with some accident probably lost me another lap, and then maybe some just inefficiencies in the pit lane and on the outlap. So you just add that all up, and it adds up to that time, I guess. And I kind of thought I had all those issues sorted out, but that's still something that I can't quite get on top of. But I think it is that way for a lot of people, because you'll see if one person comes in, everyone dives in behind them because most people know the undercut is quite severe. Maybe it's more severe for me than most, but I think it is a problem that everyone is kind of cautious of, and people will dive in the pits like risking everything because of that. So, that's basically what happened on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you did get your first pole position this season as well. That was absolutely awesome. Showing some good pace. Obviously, the championship goes to you. How are you feeling after that pole position? Were you quite confident going into the race?
Well, the pole position was extremely exciting because, as you guys know, Verth has been 2 to 5 tenths, in that range, maybe even a little less sometimes, but, just pretty much every weekend, just that much faster. And I don't think he had, quite the time to commit to preparing for this race. But it was really fun to get that pole position on the last race before being totally swept throughout the season. So it was exciting. There was a little bit of shouts of excitement coming from the room here. I'm sure everyone was wondering what on earth was going on, but they didn't know whether I crashed or something good happened. But yeah, that was exciting. Going into the race, yeah, I actually thought the race would be a little bit. I'd be able to control it a little bit better because I knew my setup was, very heavily leaning towards a race setup and not a good time trial or qualifying setup. I knew that it was quite a bit slower than the best time trial setups or qualifying setups, but I really liked the way the car handled over the stint. It was fast enough to keep up with people without much problem at the beginning of the stint, and then when everyone started sliding around at the end of the stint, the car was still stable. So yeah, I knew that, and I thought that would be beneficial, and it worked out pretty well. I think it was good pace at the end when people were really struggling on the tires. I think it was just the pit stop was the big mistake, but was able to utilize some action to kind of pull me back in it, and so we were able to have a little fun at the end.
Yeah, definitely. Well used with the tools on the track. I think that's been a benefit to you throughout the entire season. That's what's got you the advantage. Of course, not to mention the defensive masterclasses that we've seen throughout the season as well. That's one thing that I can definitely point out, which is absolutely awesome for you. Thank you very much, Jericho. It's been a pleasure to watch this season. And yeah, every single race giving it a good effort. I know it wasn't easy, especially I think it was Australia. That was a tough race for you, but you came back and you did it. Raced every single race, you got it done. The dedication finally pays off. Could you possibly name what was maybe one of your favourite races this season? I was going to say probably Japan, even though you didn't get it on track. You had some good teamwork, and then getting it in the final little moments with being a bit unsure on the time penalties. That was pretty good for me, I thought. Yeah,
that was a lot of fun. It was fun for to work together with a teammate, and Brett is cool. Really kind of just shifted his race strategy and focused on the team strategy, and it was kind of fun to see that play out, and not just play out, but make the difference and decide that race. So yeah, that was definitely a highlight of the season. I don't know if I could pick one moment. There was so many moments, but that one was a pretty exciting one. Getting the pole position today was probably one of the most exciting as well, because I didn't think that was going to happen this season, honestly. I figured that was a foregone conclusion. Yeah.
It is. It's so weird, but like when you get a pole position, like it's like, what? Yeah, I don't know how to describe it to people, but it's amazing.
Well, I lost it in Silverstone. I'm pretty sure it was Silverstone. I'm almost positive. I got the pole position, and so when I came across the line, the time had expired, but Wirth was behind me, and I was locked into the lap. And when I crossed the line, it showed me on pole, and I had it for a second, and then he beat me a few seconds later. But there was that moment of excitement, and then it was gone. So this one was lasting. As soon as I crossed the line, I had to check to see where he was and see a checkered flag next to his name. I was like, okay, it's legitimate this time.
Yeah, you finally got it. Absolutely awesome. You are the quickest driver in F1.5 for the next couple of months. You will not be contested. Well done. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I've already said it, but yeah, absolutely awesome. The racing that you've done, that you've had displayed for us. It's been a pleasure to watch, and I hope to see you in the next game. Thank you very much.
Yeah, if I could just squeeze in one more word, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
I really want to thank you for putting this event on last season and this season, and all that you do week in and week out to set everything up, inform everybody what's going on, and just the time that you invest. It's a lot of fun, and it wouldn't be this fun if you weren't commentating and doing the interviews and all that stuff that you can kind of watch back. And also, I have family members, out of the country that can watch. And so, big thank you to them. My father and my sister watch, week in and week out. And it's a lot of fun for them to watch because of what you add to the event. And if it was just watching a live stream of me doing it, it wouldn't be nearly as fun. So I just really want to say thank you, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. Stewards also appreciate that. Eagle with the development behind the scenes as well. Nifo Pursoon. And really, all of the drivers, when they attend, they put on a good show. So really thank you to you. It wouldn't happen otherwise. So I do appreciate it, and thank you very much to the viewers and your family to watch for watching the races. It is a pleasure, and yeah, that does mean a lot. So thank you very much. We've got a lot of work to do. We will continue. We won't give up, and we'll make it better next time. Well, a championship battle that we've had was absolutely awesome. So just a few more cars on the track would be great as well. But it doesn't take anything away from what you've achieved. You are the champion of Season 12. Well done, Jericho.
Thank you.
And we go to a final interview to Manic. Manic, welcome. Sorry for the last-minute interview here, but you've given it... Oh, he's gone. He's back. There you are. Sorry for the delay. Welcome to the first interview. Absolutely incredible start to the race. Unfortunately, it didn't quite go so well. I understand you have a bit of an injury, so you've given it a good shot. But first race in, how did you take that?
It's a good learning experience for me, I think. I'll have more pace than that in me with the wrist. So I'm hoping to go to next season, and whatever happens in it, we'll see what happens. I'm hoping to fight for the title, and we'll see about that though.
Yeah, it will be a very good one, and I can't wait to see that. Have you got any experience in the new game with the beta? Are you looking forward to it?
I haven't got any experience with it, but I am hoping it's better than this game, is all I can say. I'm also hoping for just better handling in general. I didn't like the handling of this game. It just doesn't suit my driving style properly.
Fair enough. Well, for someone that doesn't have their driving style kind of locked in for this game, then you've done a pretty good job today. So thank you very much, and hopefully we can see you do well in the next season. I can't wait.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's been it for the post-race interviews. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure. We will see you in F1.25 a couple months' time. We'll definitely be doing a summer season before that. We'll also be doing some more regular races throughout the weeks up towards that game, of course. So we're not going to be going anywhere. We'll see you next week for some more streams. We'll see you for the watch-alongs for the F1 races as well. Have a good one. Signing off. Goodbye.